Hi, this is your host Abdul Bharti and welcome to the next episode of Newsroom. And today we have once again Sheng Liang. He is the founder of Rancher Labs. So first of all, Sheng, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest in Rancher.
Yes, you can see the Rancher shirt as well here. Here you go. So if I'm not wrong, Rancher is going to announce a new operating system or distribution. What is it all about? Just tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, actually, Rancher has had a long history of doing operating systems. A lot of people know us about, Rancher as the container management platform, but we actually developed a Rancher OS a few years back. That was very popular. It's a lightweight operating system that's used just to run Docker containers. And these days you can go to Amazon and run it. You can go to DigitalOcean and create a Rancher OS instance. So that was Rancher OS. And as we all know, the container world has been evolving pretty dramatically in the last few years. And while Docker was the de facto container runtime platform a few years back, nowadays Kubernetes is really the container management and orchestration platform. So guess what? We're doing a lightweight Linux operating system just for running Kubernetes. And the exciting thing about that is it ties into our lightweight Kubernetes distro, K3S. So we call it K3OS. It's a lightweight Linux distro just for running K3S. Or it's a lightweight Kubernetes distro for running a lightweight Linux distro for running a lightweight Kubernetes distro.
So how is it different from the offering by Red Hat, which usually used to be CoreOS, but it was acquired? Then SUSE, they also have, CASP platform is there. Canonical, they also have, Ubuntu Core. So how is it different from those? Are you competing with them, or it's just totally handling a different use case altogether?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the world needs a operating system distro just for the sake of having an operating system Linux distro, even though it might be more lightweight. And in fact, we leverage a lot of great work that the community and especially Ubuntu has been doing. We use we pretty much use the off-the-shelf Ubuntu core kernel, and those guys really have the best. The most up-to-date support for the latest kernel releases, and also the widest support for device drivers. So we were able to benefit greatly from there. And fundamentally, the problem we've been trying to solve is really a Kubernetes operations and management problem. So as you know, Rancher's always supported running Kubernetes distros, running K3S on any kind of Linux, and we're going to continue to do that. But one problem we run into is, as a Kubernetes operator, you have to now manage the operating system and the Kubernetes distro separately. And we see people who don't quite do that actually run the risk of leaving their system in an insecure state, because what a lot of times we see the thing happen is they would create some nodes and then they would install Kubernetes, kubelet or masters on these nodes, and then they'll keep these Kubernetes clusters running for a long time, while at the same time, as they were upgrading the Kubernetes version, they may not actually go around and patch the underlying operating system. So sometimes they patch the underlying operating system, but they may not be actually patching the Kubernetes version concurrently. So what we really see is in a lot of these situations, Kubernetes and the underlying Linux system are actually two integral parts of the same platform. So you almost if you think about K3OS, it's literally a Kubernetes distro and a Linux distro in one. So what's the practical implication of that? So the practical implication is you basically manage that thing as one unit. So as an admin, instead of you go patch the Linux OS or upgrade the Linux OS, then you have to worry about potentially disrupting the Kubernetes cluster on top. So now you're going to have to move some workload away or put nodes into maintenance mode. You don't really do that anymore. You actually just interact with K3OS, a node or a cluster directly with kube control, and you operate some custom resource definition. You say, I want to, what is this version? I want to upgrade it. Then K3S actually takes over and then upgrade the whole cluster, and both the Kubernetes distro and the underlying operating system. And it would actually reschedule the pods if necessary. It would make sure that the system is kept up to date, is kept secure, and is actually done in a way that causes minimal impact to the application workload. So in a nutshell, K3OS is basically a Kubernetes distro and a Linux distro all in one, so that it minimizes both the attack surface, improves security, and it simplifies operations and management. So that's the idea.
And you said it's based on Ubuntu?
The kernel is based on Ubuntu kernel.
Okay.
We've had a bunch of options, and Ubuntu primarily because Ubuntu has very good, has the most kernel version support, and it has very good driver support.
Right. So when a customer is using K3OS, and I'm assuming it's as a typical Rancher solution, you will have open source version and you can get support on top of that. But this is not a separate OS that people can use to run their own Kubernetes. It is bundled closely with is that correct? Or
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
It is really a Linux and our specific Kubernetes distro K3S packaged in one. So
okay. So that also means that you'll be offering support related to Linux as well now.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually offer support for Rancher OS today as a separate thing. I mean, a lot of people get commercial support for Rancher OS from us without even using the Rancher container management product. Likewise, the K3OS is also going to be separate from Rancher. Of course, it will. You can manage a lot of K3OS instances from Rancher, and just like K3S, K3OS is actually particularly useful for edge deployments. We actually see a lot of demand coming from coming from our user base and customer base about this kind of low maintenance, highly secure, and lightweight Kubernetes and Linux distros for the edge.
Right. So it's not changing anything else related to your customers who are using Kubernetes. Does that also mean you're also kind of offering a platform which they can use to develop as well? Because when I look at a distribution, I said there's so many things that come into my head also, like, okay, so there is a platform which you target that runs on your production, and then you also offer a platform that developers can use to test or try against that platform. So because I saw that it is supporting multiple different architecture,
Yes.
You can run it wherever you want. It's ARM support is also there, right?
That's right.
Right.
ARM and x86.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually see. I think I think you're absolutely right. That although the primary use case for K3S and K3OS is really for production deployment of these clusters, and especially on the edge. But we see across the board interest from developers. People are nowadays actually embedding these things into their appliances. They have they have a Raspberry Pi system, and they would actually put the lightweight operating system and lightweight Kubernetes distro on top of that. And then because everything is open source, so what I've also seen people do is they actually fork our code base, and then they add a whole bunch of additional modules on top, so that are they want enhanced networking support or storage support that we didn't quite bundle into the base system, and then they want to add these things as modules, and they want to contribute these changes back. We really welcome that. So it is a K3S is really becoming a vibrant open source community by itself, and K3OS is essentially think of it as a I think it plays in that whole K3S ecosystem community. And by the way, K3S is of course part of the much bigger Kubernetes ecosystem and Kubernetes community. So we're all building out of this wonderful technology that is Kubernetes.
Was there any particular reason, any particular use case, or any pain point that you saw that you're like, hey, we need to come up with that? What was that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So fundamentally, what we're seeing is folks are really unnecessarily managing the Kubernetes distro and the Linux distro as two separate entities. And that causes both operational complexities, and that also potentially cause security issues. Because as you know, let's just talk about security first. There's been a number of CVEs, important CVEs, that came out for Kubernetes, and you really got to make sure your Kubernetes distro is up to date. But Linux system by itself also has periodic patches that you just have to apply. So the key thing there is you have to apply both of these type of distros on an ongoing basis promptly as new CVE come out, and I definitely see. So that leads to the second challenge that we've seen, and folks struggle because if you're actually patching and upgrading the Linux distro, that could impact, because sometimes that requires a reboot. In most cases, these things require reboot of the operating system. That could impact the Kubernetes cluster that's running on top, right? Even though Kubernetes is designed to recover from individual node failures, you still have to, schedule a rolling upgrade. You have to time these things very carefully. You may have to inform the workload so that they evacuate the nodes that's about to be impacted. So the nice thing about K3OS is, since we manage the Linux distro and the Kubernetes distro all in one, we can orchestrate the upgrade and operations of the Linux distro all from Kubernetes. Like we don't really have a separate upgrade manager or patch manager for the Linux distro anymore. Everything is done through Kubernetes as custom resource definition. So essentially, like the OS node shows up as a resource, as an entity inside Kubernetes, and then Kubernetes is able to manage these things directly. And since Kubernetes already knows about the workload, it can actually do very intelligent things with the scheduler, right? Making sure your workload is impacted as little as possible. So like I said, it goes back to those two particular pain points. One is a further, improve security. The other is further simplify operations.
And what kind of community do you want to build around it? Is it that you're open with people coming in with patches or suggestions, or it will be totally Rancher maintained project?
I think there's just like Rancher and Rancher OS or K3S. These open source projects, generally there's a developer community, people who contribute patches and code, and there's usually also a much larger user community. People just kind of use the software and contribute their bug reports and documentation enhancements their love. They spread the word about how great the software is. So we welcome all kinds of community members, whether you're a developer or a user.
So it's continuation of the legacy and the way Rancher already works. It's just more
Exactly.
Uh,
We're a fundamental believer in open source technology. We build on industry standard technologies like Linux and Kubernetes, and we just try to add some value on top to make the technology even easier to use, and so that it could be more widely adopted.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sheng, for talking to me today, and hopefully we'll see you soon with the next announcement, or maybe at KubeCon.
Thank you. I'll definitely be going to KubeCon Europe. I look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Swapnil.